Howdy everybody, David Macon here, starting player with Connect More, and welcome to my final thoughts video for Days of Ire, Budapest 1956. Now normally I include my final thoughts at the end of my Avoid the Rules video, which I have made for this game, but I've opted not to do that just because I find when I do the instructional Avoid the Rules video, I do provide a lot of commentary about things I really like about the game, which more or less makes my final thoughts redundant if you watch that video. So I am going to try something new here. I'm going to separate the two and see if we like this format or not. So let's just jump right in and let's talk about what I think of this game. Now overall, I've really enjoyed this game. I've had some great game playing experience with this. And why is that? Well, I find that this game pretty much scratches any gameplay mood that I'm in, and that's built up from the asymmetric nature of this game. If I'm in a mood where I want to be playing cards and making tough decisions as to whether or not I want to play something for my advantage or to basically screw somebody else over and kind of take that, but knowing that just because I might have won the battle, I might not win the war, so to speak. It might come back to bite me with these cascading event cards that exist in the game. If I'm in that type of mood, then I want to be the Soviet player. I basically want to create puzzles. I want to try to outthink a group of other players who are playing the revolutionists, who are working collectively together and trying to solve the puzzle that you're creating. And sometimes I'm in that mood. Sometimes I want to be sitting, I want to be thinking about the puzzle. I want to see what you're throwing my way and seeing how I can respond to that, and working with my co-workers or my partners here to be able to thwart your attempts and to be able to emerge victorious of the revolution. And I find that it is just awesome this way, because this game scratches itches for all players that I've played with, because again, some people just want to play a co-op game and they like playing co-op games. Well, the only difference between this game and say a game like Pandemic or Fire Escape, any of these, or Flashpoint Fire Rescue, pardon me, the only difference here is that you've got one player creating the puzzle, playing God, if you will, and creating the puzzle for you, whereas the rest of you are working and trying to solve that. Whereas in all those other co-op games, is the puzzles created by the nature of the game itself. You don't have somebody actually creating it. And so this provides gameplay for all sides and all spectrums of players, and I find it's for that it has been exceedingly popular with the guys that I play, just because of that very reason. So that pretty much also covers, well, who is this game intended for? This game, I'm going to say, is medium in weight. It's still a very enriching and engrossing experience, because outside of gameplay itself, this covers an extremely important time in Hungarian history. And as a Canadian, I gotta honestly speak, I don't really know much about Hungarian history. I didn't know anything of this revolution until I actually played the game. So for somebody who actually has an interest in politics, an interest in history, this game is phenomenal, because it creates a discussion point. By having these real events, these real instances, this real occasion occurring, then it prompts questions. Like, for example, Stalin Square. Like, I thought it was phenomenal. That was his statue was one of the first things that was toppled in the revolution. And you start learning these things, and it really prompts a lot of conversation. So from a gameplay point of view, I feel that this game is going to speak to a lot of people, and there's an ability for different experiences and people who like different styles of game, for them to actually really enjoy this game. Also, it's a great moment for you to introduce this game to historic buffs and people who are interested in learning different parts of history, as this dives right into this moment in Hungarian history really, really well. I really love how this game has these different abilities to win or lose the game depending on what side you're on, and you've got to make these decisions, because sometimes you got to just go for it. You're like, we're going to go for the win, an early win right away. And so say, for example, the Communist Party, he might be like, I'm going to drive their morale down. The heck with the events, I'm going to drive their morale down. And as a Soviet player, you've got to make these decisions when you're going to start playing for the end of game and just bombard bombard the revolutionists with tons of events so they can't get them done, and try to basically win through attrition, if you will, or maybe you see an opportunity to pounce. And so I love how alert you need to be as a Soviet or as a communist player, and I also love how as a communist player you can use gameplay on the Soviet side to set up your special protection agency there, because you play a particular card for its action, if you will, and then you can be able to draw back some of your state protection authority cards so you can use them later on in the game during your state protection authority phase. Like, I love that you can kind of tee yourself up to get the revolutionists. Meanwhile, the revolutionists, you're sandwiched in between the communist player's team, two actions. So if you see what he's trying to do, well, then you got to kind of squeeze out of it. But there's so many neat cat and mouse things that are occurring in this game, and you got to decide when you're going to go for the juggler and pounce, or when you need to say, you know what, if I go all in and I lose that bet, I might lose the game right here and right now. I don't want to do that. And that's indicative, or brings out the same emotions as I'm sure that would occur throughout the revolution. There are areas where they might set up shop, build barricades. They build barricades out of trams and, really fox themselves in, but then hold themselves in. But then they might decide, maybe we can't, we're not going to win here. We got to go, we got to live on another day. We got to put our resources elsewhere. We got to go take care of an event somewhere else. And I just love that. Like, when a game forces you to make those decisions, and you get this, you're always on the lookout for a mistake or an opportunity, and if you don't see it, well, then you got to play the longer game. And that tension that you feel as the communist player is different than the tension and the strategies you're going to have as the revolutionist player. And again, it just scratches so many itches for me that they've done a really great job of doing that. Now, the presentation of this game also is phenomenal. Now, again, this was a prototype version of the game that I showed the video on, and that's in front of me, that was provided to me by Cloud Island. However, the graphic design that you're seeing is going to be indicative of the final game. Again, go check out their Kickstarter page if you want to see more, but the quality of the components might not quite be there. Now, I am probably maybe a little bit biased about the graphic design. I think it is so well done. I just love it. The cards, the Revolution cards, I love the art on these. I love the board. I love all the different cards. Like, it's just, I love these event cards with the different headlines on them. It is just great. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because I know one of the the artists, Kate Nimmerfro, she also designed my webpage, www.connect-more.ca. Go check it out. Shameless plug. But I sought her out after seeing her work with Redacted. I really like the work that she does, and the overall presentation of this game is phenomenal. In terms of gameplay, we have a couple core mechanics. Of course, the game is asymmetric, so depending on what side you're going to be on, you're going to be using one mechanic perhaps more heavily in one side versus another. Now, the Soviet player, he's all about hand management. He is trying to work his cards and use them for all their multiple abilities that they have in such a way that he might be able to progress his cause and make things tougher for the Hungarian Revolution. And he's got to do that through clever hand management and also through clever placement of events and deciding when he's going to attack and when he's going to play for the longer term game. Now, on the other side, we've got the Hungarian Revolution players. It's a co-op game that they're playing amongst each other, so it's really great. They got a lot of discussion, but there's an action point allowance system essentially, because regardless of player count, there's going to be 4 actions that the Revolution's team can take, and they have a multiple of choices that they can take, and the discussion that comes out of that, trying to decide, well, what are our 4 actions going to be, in what order, and who's going to take them, it provides such an enriching discussion. It is just awesome, and I honestly thought that with higher player counts that the game would get more boring before I started playing, because I'm like, well, if I'm playing with 4 players and there's 3 revolutionists, then 2 of the revolutionists only get 1 action every turn. I'm like, man, that would suck if that was just me. I only get 1 action with all this other stuff going on. I'm like, well, how's that going to be engaging? Boy, was I wrong. Totally wrong. Because what happens is all of the revolutionists are completely involved in the discussion and the ideas for how those 4 actions need to be done. Then it's just basically, once you've figured out how you're going to do it, then you just basically move it and take care of it. But you are actively involved in all of the decision-making process, although you only physically do one thing in that particular scenario. So it was really great for that. And the other thing I really like about this element of this discussion, sometimes you can't be totally open with your discussion because you got the communist sitting right there listening in, and he might have a chance to react to what he thinks your plan is going to be. It's kind of like if you're playing Scotland Yard, you've got Mr. X listening to all the detectives talking about how they're going to trap you. Well, immediately he's going to figure out a way how to get out of that trap, unless it's a really good trap. So it really provides a neat element to the game, and so the game mechanics are different for each side, and again provide a really enriching experience depending on what side you're on and what type of experience you're looking for. So let's discuss then luck or random elements, things that you can't control in this game. Well, there is bits of that in there, and again it's going to go back to your gameplay, whether or not you feel it's a tolerable level or not. Go check out the Avoid the Rules videos to see more about how some luck and random elements are introduced throughout the game, but for me, it's not a problem, because you basically have, when a tank fires at you, he's got a 50-50 chance of hitting you because you're going to roll a die. So, you might get lucky. But I can't think of a co-op game that doesn't involve some luck, where you're like, wow, the difference between us winning or losing that particular game was because this one card didn't come up, or we got that sweet combo when the card came out, and that was lucky. It was random, it was lucky, it was like, wow, I'm glad we got that. That made the difference. Sure, but there are ways you can mitigate that luck. There are ways, like for the revolutionists, to be able to, build a barricade. Now, once you've got the barricade built, that tank can't fire at you anymore. Or move, go focus on something else. So maybe you've got it's too hot of an area. Maybe you can work around that. So there are places to go and do that. And then similarly, when the militia come in and start firing, the State Protection Authority comes in and attacks you, well, there are another dice roll that's going to resolve that, but the communist player, he's going to mitigate his luck by trying to beef up so that he can make sure he gets those hits. Whereas again, the Hungarian revolutionist players, well, again, they got to work around that. They got to attack back. They got to start collecting some of those bullet symbols so they can shoot back. So there are ways to push back and forth on this. So yeah, it's there. It's up to you to actually give it a play to see what kind of level it is for you. I didn't find it a problem. I just saw them, whenever I saw these elements pop up, which might be deemed as random or luck-based, I saw it more as a thing I had to work around, a part of the puzzle, an uncertain part of the puzzle that either I wanted to confront, or B, I wanted to back away from until I was in a position where I felt I could confront it and improve my odds a bit. And again, you got the event cards, and you got these different decks. The order in which you pull cards might affect the gameplay a little bit, but I call that replayability, frankly speaking, for this level of game. I don't call that random. It's just, it provides different things, different ideas, different gameplay that you're going to have to adapt to and play with throughout the course of the game. And that's going to be different from game to game to game, which provides for a different experience. So that segues nicely into, well, what about strategy versus tactics? Well, obviously, in any kind of battle like a revolution, there's going to be a lot of tactical decisions you're going to have to make based on, again, how the problem is being changed for you. But you're going to have to build a long-term strategy for how you're going to actually win the game. So from the revolutionary side of things, your long-term strategy is quite simple. Survive. Or you can maybe even get really aggressive and start destroying the tanks, start destroying the militia. And if you can do that, well, then you can really take it to the communist side. Now, the communist side, he's basically just trying to squash you every single moment that he's got. Sure, but overall, I found that there was a great balance between strategy and tactics. There was times where you could make tactical decisions in hopes that you might be able to surprise the other side, and then in the those decisions were balanced by the fact that you didn't want to screw yourself in case it didn't work out quite the way you anticipated. So I found that this game provides a really nice balance of anchoring any tactical decision with an overall strategic thinking. I've rambled on long enough. I think I've given you the impression that I really enjoy this game, because I do. Again, the only slightly negative thing that I can say about this game is the downtime experienced by the revolutionary player in the early learning process of the game. And I would say it's going to take about a game for everything to start flowing smoothly and to reduce that downtime so that nobody's really getting bored. Get through the first game, get through that learning curve, and then which has opened the door for lots of enriching gaming experiences with this game. Most importantly, did I have fun? Absolutely I have fun. I really look forward to playing this game, and I look forward to many more gaming sessions with this, because this is a game I want to continue to play and continue to explore, because I feel there's so much to this game to do just that. Now, if you want to go learn more, go check out my Avoid the Rules video, or go check out Paul Grogan from Gaming Rules. He's made a great overview instructional video as well. He does fantastic work. Go check him out. Now, if you enjoyed this, come find me on Facebook, Connect More Board Games, or Twitter, GamesYYC, or Instagram, GamesYYC. I'd love to see you guys there. And until then, I hope you enjoyed my final thoughts, and go check out their Kickstarter page. Cheers.